Since its release over 20 years ago, Spyro the Dragon has captured the hearts and imaginations of millions around the world. Filled with magic, beautiful scenery, and dragons, it's no wonder why this has become one of the most beloved franchises in all of gaming. But beneath the fun colors and characters lies a deeply rich history of myths and legends that we can explore and mythology in gaming. Hello everyone, and welcome. For those not fully aware, Spyro the Dragon originally released for the PlayStation in 1998 and saw a plethora of sequels and spin-offs. Eventually, the original 3 games were remastered in 2018 as the reignited trilogy, allowing those that grew up with Spyro to relive the glory days of the game. The story revolves around the titular character Spyro, who is the youngest of the dragons in the kingdom. The villain, Gnasty Gnorc, gets insulted during an interview with the other dragons and uses his magic to freeze all the dragons and steal their gems. It's then up to Spyro and his friend Sparx to free everyone, collect the gems, and return the kingdom to normal. From the moment the player can control Spyro, your companion, Sparx, flies at your side. Sparx is a dragonfly who indicates how much health the player has. Dragonfly and the Dragon Kingdom, I see what they did there. Sparx' color starts out as gold, then blue, green, and then disappears entirely after Spyro takes significant damage. However, Sparx the Dragonfly ties back to Norse mythology with the Vanir goddess Freya, who ruled over love, fertility, and warfare. Dragonflies became a symbol of her, or represented her presence, because of how their movement reflected how the goddess maneuvered in battle. Additionally, when dragonflies mate, they form the shape of a heart, showing the symbol of love that Freya so often portrayed. Another interesting fact is that the dragonflies in Chinese folklore were seen as a good luck charm. Many artists' renditions, either in paintings or statue work, depicted dragonflies in either gold, blue, or green. Throughout the game, Spyro and Sparx are continually introduced to different dragons within the different realms. Thanks to the remaster in 2018, we get to see each dragon that Spyro saves with different designs and differing personalities, as compared to the original, who all shared 1 or 2 designs with barely any personality. Each unique dragon carries with it the notion that throughout history, each culture has had their own version of dragons. The Chinese dragon being a long serpent made of different animal parts, to the drakes or wyverns of the Dark Ages, and finally to the Western dragons that we see today. Dragons themselves date back to the Romans, with the author Virgil writing in his poem Culex, "By paths the same, a monstrous speckled snake, with many colored body now there comes, to sink submerged in mud I the heat intense." During Virgil's time, the word serpens and draco in Latin were used interchangeably, meaning a snake-like monster to terrorize or harm people. The story itself speaks on a shepherd who encounters the monster and being hunted by it after swatting a gnat. Dragons supposedly date back even further to the Sumerians, with the Sumerian goddess Tiamat, commonly referred to as the mother of all monsters, was the primordial goddess of the sea. It was said that she bore the first dragons into the world along with other sea monsters and scorpion men. However, many historians and archaeologists debate whether Tiamat herself may have been a dragon or just the embodiment of the sea. Represented as a young dragon, Spyro is the only one that walks on all 4s and is the smallest, as many of the dragons you meet are all bipedal and much taller. The size difference shows not only his age, but his experience as well, and is reminiscent of the hero's journey, as overcoming great odds and developing into a better version of himself. Spyro's purple color was a color of royalty, or someone with higher status. During the height of the Roman Empire, the emperor and only a handful of royal advisors were even able to wear the color due to how expensive it was to produce. Spyro's design, and even other dragons, originated from the European and Western dragons of the same look with 4 legs and a set of wings on their back. This imagery is very similar to the flag and symbol of Wales, with the red dragon Dewi. Fun fact, Spyro's original design was actually the same red coloring as that dragon. Pretty cool. The story of the dragon Dewi tells of dueling dragons, one red and the other white, who both represented the factions of people during that time. When the red dragon had won its battle, a prophecy formed that a king of Pendragon would be born and be immortalized. This was referring to King Arthur, who would take the throne as King of England sometime later, as well, whose father was even named Uther Pendragon. In your journey throughout all of the Dragon Realms as Spyro, you come across a multitude of enemies to slow your progress. There are many of them who resemble different figures in pop culture and history, like French soldiers under Napoleon Bonaparte, to Rambo, and even American Western gunslingers. However, there are a few that stand out, sharing similarities to ancient myths and legends. One such are the wizards and druids that share a resemblance to popular imagery of Merlin, as within the Celtic mythos, druids were magic users and seers among the gods and kings. Another are the Cupid enemies within the Dark Passage, who look suspiciously like imps under the devil's rule within the Judeo-Christian mythology. The interesting part of the enemy is that it's named Cupid, who was the Roman god of love. It's almost like there was this whole shift at one point from thinking that the Roman gods were good into bad and evoked sentiments of the devil. I'm sure there's nothing on that though. One more of this group are the egg thieves, who taunt you and run away as you get close. In all honesty, I tried to find any potential references to myths and legends and couldn't really find anything. So let me know down in the comments what you might think these thieves connect to. The first boss of the game and captor of the Artisan Realm, Toasty is an imposing jack-o'-lantern and scarecrow that Spyro is able to burn through without too much trouble. The legend surrounding Toasty's look tells of the old, stingy Jack, who had tricked the devil and captured him, and striking a deal with the devil that he could not take his soul. Jack could not enter heaven either because of his sins in his life, and upon dying had to roam the earth with his only light being a coal of hellfire stuck in a turnip to guide him. This legend actually has two different tellings, between Jack being surrounded by lone men while another has the devil and Jack drinking one night. Both share the same part of the story where the devil has to turn into a coin to pay for the toll and is held against a crucifix, unable to change back. As Jack roamed the earth, many have said to have seen him and honored him by reenacting his wandering with making jack-o'-lanterns of their own, eventually becoming the pumpkin that we see today, as that more closely represents the time of the harvest in English culture. Overlord of the Peacekeeper's Realm, Dr. Shemp is the second boss of the game and a portly villain, sporting skulls around his wrist and staff. The imagery is in line with the religious figures known as witch doctors and voodoo doctors. These doctors maintain the religious practices within Western Africa, the Caribbean, and Louisiana, with each region holding their own separate methods for their religious ceremonies. The doctors themselves were healers of their culture, who would ward off evil spirits with the skulls of their former doctors, and would call upon the healing powers of the Supreme One known as the Bon Dieu. Little more than a tornado with a beard and arms, Blowhard is the third boss of the game, and tyrant of the Magic Crafter's realm. His design suggests that he was inspired by the Cyclone Person. The Shawnee people of North America believed that the being was made entirely of wind, clouds, and thunder, whose arms and hair were like the tendrils of tornadoes or cyclones that formed. This being held a deep respect from the Shawnee people, as the Cyclone Person's power was immeasurable, being capable of not only striking down enemies, but blowing them away, never to be seen or heard from again. This massive metal monster shares a common design with the metal titan Talos. Metalhead is the fourth boss and oppressor of the Beast Maker's realm. His stature is one of the largest in the game, with being a guard for the entry into the final world of the game. In comparison, Talos, the Bronze Guardian of Crete, is one of the victims in the myth of Jason and the Argonauts. The story shares that as Jason nears the island, he is met with aggression from the Metal Titan, hurling rocks and nearly capsizing the ship. Jason's love interest, a princess named Medea, conjures a spell to bewitch Talos into tearing out a bolt in his ankle that held his lifeblood of ichor. This act withered Talos to rubble and allowed Jason and his crew free passage to the island. This tale has similarities with Metalhead, as all of his attacks can destroy the bolts that power him throughout the level, keeping him alive, which after destroying the last bolt gives Spyro safe passage. One of the creepiest bosses in the game, Jax is a jack-in-the-box that rules the Dreamweaver's realm. The penultimate boss, Jax's name is actually a play on the toy and the country of its origins. His design as well holds one of the weirder legends explored here. The tale describes an English rector in the 14th century, Sir John Shorn, who claimed to have incredible healing powers. His powers, though, came from the devil who he had captured in a boot, using him to heal others. After a few centuries had passed, the French had actually invented the toy of the Jack-in-the-Box, based on the legend. Many believed that the Jack, the clown, was meant to surprise and catch demons after a tune had played, luring them closer into the trap. The main antagonist of the game, Gnasty Gnorc, is a creature who is a mishmash of two mythical creatures. The first being a gnome, who were subterranean humanoids that collected and hoarded shiny objects like trinkets, gold, and gems. Gnomes were originally believed to either descend from or were related to goblins, which may have influenced Gnasty Gnorc's design and name even. The second part of Gnasty Gnorc's origin is of an orc. This is clear from his tusks and green skin. However, the orc's look was only ever realized thanks to J.R.R. Tolkien's writing on Lord of the Rings. In Latin, the word orc originates from the word orcus, meaning half-devil or ruler of infernal existence. Additionally, the Saxons used the word orc interchangeably with the word thyrss, meaning giant, which the Norse would actually say Jotun. This could explain why Gnasty Gnorc is monstrously large compared to the other enemies in the game. Well, I think that just about covers everything within Spyro the Dragon and its connections to ancient myths and legends. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to subscribe and be up to date to more videos just like this one, and be sure to hit that like button. If there's anything I missed, or anything you'd like me to cover next, please let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.
You're toast, Gnorc!